you've got regulation for alcohol and cigarettes and drugs because they have money to manipulate people to do that. That should be the same thing to social media because young people do not have enough knowledge or enough ability to make the decision themselves.
I see what you're saying. You're saying social media itself should be treated as a substance.
Well, if you think about it, it's the same thing because they give you dopamine hits. Right. What does a drug do? The drug also gives you a dopamine hit.
But they're in this free space of
it's a free space.
You can't.
Yeah.
Because alcohol is a liquid. I see what you mean. They're in an intangible.
The end physiological body response
is the same as a tobacco. New thing, bro. That's pre cup.
No, this is just for me to because I figured out the first episode, man, is hard for me to really make the.
I love it.
To match it.
I love it. We in here. We live. Welcome to Beyond the Hustle. We back. I'm here with a very, very enigmatic, very, very well cultured in the realms of tech, content, comedy, and I feel like I sense human psychology and the systematic frameworks of society and whatnot. I'm here with Ho Yin. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man.
Welcome to the podcast.
Excited.
Yes, sir.
Super excited.
And as you know, here on Beyond the Hustle, we're really fascinated. Myself, Armel, our team is super fascinated about, what is behind this idea of creative energy, creative force. Are there spiritual undertones? Are there energetical undertones? But I'm sure we'll dive into it a little bit. But first and foremost, I know you have a company that you are currently breathing life into. Can you tell me about this company?
Yeah, so the current company I'm working right now that I'm really trying to bring forward is Hermessi, which is a company where we help C-level executives, CEOs, be ultra productive both on their work side and their home side. And we do that by matching them with our top tier virtual executive assistants. And these executive assistants are we go around the world to source them and find them. It's harder to get into Hermessi than it is to get into Harvard. And then I also got an ex-Navy SEAL head of recruiting and training to help me develop the 1-month boot camp training program that I put them through. And so it's
prestigious.
So it's super. It's basically I do a lot of training. Essentially, we might be a staffing company, but really we're like a training company. You know how hospitality, like Ritz-Carlton or something, they spend a lot of time training people to become 5-star butlers and stuff like that. It's like that. It's like that level, but at an elite productivity level for executive assistants. So we teach them advanced ChatGPT prompt engineering. We teach them all these automation tools, tools for lead generation. We teach them how to create social media content for the CEO to generate leads, for lead generation, and bookkeeping is a bunch of things. But the core thing is we teach them how to have what we call the Hermessi mindset, which is this ravenous desire for learning, being ultra proactive, and just providing this 360 kind of combined work and personal desire to make their lives efficient so that they can be at their peak performance when they work. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm working on.
That's amazing, bro. What does Hermessi mean? What is that word root? What's the story behind the name?
So
Hermessi.
Yeah, it's a good.
It's fire. I mean, of course,
Yeah, so
people gonna think messy real quick.
So that's part of it. So the first part is the god of Hermes is known to be the messenger god for all the rest of the gods, especially for Zeus, the biggest god.
Wings on the ankle.
Exactly. So he used to one that was fly around, send messages, and so he was like the assistant basically. So I wanted that name, and then Messi kind of combined really well with that, and I was like, well, Messi stands for the GOAT, excellence, top of the game. So then I was like, all right, we'll just go with that.
That's clean.
It's nothing too complex, really.
But that's clean. You hear Hermessi, and I almost think of like a designer brand.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to go for
there's a little fashionista vibe to it.
Yeah, we're trying to make it like just trying to it's like the Ritz-Carlton brand, right? When you think about that, it's like 5-star service, like really quality. That's the kind of the feeling that I want to give to people. Yeah.
So right now, the actual assistants they're humans.
Yeah. So they're basically human powered. It's human people.
Right.
Each CEO gets assigned to one person, but they just use AI tools like crazy.
That's fire. So you're really getting a certain workforce ready for this.
That's exactly
this jump. Right. This jump into the light speed, like.
Yeah.
I
mean, got it.
We talk about this all the time. This kind of idea of human-centric versus tech-centric.
Right.
And what kind of world are we leading toward? What do you think where do you think we're headed? Are we headed to a more tech-centric world, or a more human-centric world, or a combination? It sounds like it's a combination, but what do you think?
I think it's going to be mostly human-centric on the surface. So, for example, in Hermessi, right? What I envision is that all the most basic activities. Let's say, for example, calendaring.
Okay.
Right? So we kind of have calendaring down from an automated standpoint, but not 100%. I imagine there's going to be some AI tool that's really going to do calendaring like totally automated, right? So then a human person's not going to do that anymore. But a human person, I believe, will still need that because at the end of the day, you're still dealing with human beings. So in our case, the human being is like the human interface of all the AI tools that they are running behind the scenes.
The interpreter.
So they're like the operation. They're just managing all these AI tools, just like how we do now. We manage all the tools, but then when I interface with you, I'm the human interface for what you are, for what you need. So I think that's going to be how part of the future is going to look like. Number one. Number two is that I think, on the lower level, like what I mean by like the common person or for common tasks, like you and me, for example, we might have an AI assistant.
Right.
But that's going to be like for very basic tasks and all that kind of stuff. I think that's definitely going to happen. That's
right.
definitely going to happen. And then all the our mindset and our mind space is going to be focused on more difficult, higher end tasks.
Right, like
curation,
creativity.
The human side, the creativity, exactly. So I think
the manifestation side. Almost.
I think the curation and the human creativity side and the judgment of like what is good and what is not. Like for example, like the show Stranger Things. Like how do you know that that's going to be a breakout show? Like what are all the directors and anything that it was involved in creating that concept? And then us as audience were able to determine that, wow, this is really unique. This show is nothing been done before. Like that is inherently human.
So you're almost trying to, I see what you mean. You're trying to elevate what's inherent to humans by alleviating some of these potentially mundane technical tasks.
Right. That's right.
In order to empower
yeah.
humans' creative ability.
Yeah.
When I hear that, I imagine, like, of course, I think one of the most ancient archetypical stories is the story of the genie, right? And we're headed towards a wish-based kind of reality where
right.
I feel like the almost ultimate version would be like, I'm just because it's real life. I'm dealing with my biggest uncle passed away. I'm dealing with a funeral.
Oh wow.
We got to make a tribute video, but something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You talk to someone. I need you to make this tribute video like this, like this, like that.
Yeah.
And then that person's like, I got you.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
So that's what's missing in the tech side is that understanding, that inherent.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And like, what is it gonna emotionally move you? Because like, for example, you tell someone to do that. Let's just give you this example, right? Like if a good person, a really talented person would like sit down, talk to you, understand everything, understand the story, understand the emotional like impact and all that kind of stuff. And then what resonates with you, with the audience. So the AI will give you all these ideas.
Right.
It may even go as far as like coming up with a story.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're the person that makes that judgment on what does it mean to you, to your heart.
Right.
Right? And to what you think to your audience. So that curation, I call it curation.
Yeah, for sure.
That curation and that judgment part, I think, I don't know if an AI can go that far.
Right.
The only way
so
that
nuanced.
the only way that the AI can do something like that, which I've seen, which is scary, which is like, but it can only happen under certain circumstances. So I'll give you an example. So now AI are used a lot to generate ads, right? So they will try all these different combinations, different models, different people, different text, different everything. And all those different combinations are probably in the thousands. But because when you're doing an online Facebook ad, you have the opportunity to show all these different ads and then see
what's performing
better.
Who's responding to what?
Yeah. So that's a statistical, non-heart way of doing it that AI will do better. But only if you have the volume to test that on. But in your case, you don't have that volume.
That's interesting. So it's almost like this cross between the classic quality over quantity.
Yeah.
So you want to facilitate more quality engagements between the service you provide and the people who essentially want to curate their life, their memory.
That's right. That's right.
That's quite interesting. How do you screen? That makes me think. How do you screen for passion in your assistants?
For me, it's all about action. It's like, how do you? We look a lot in action in terms of the way how people do things. It's almost like I ignore what people say. Like I think what people say is the weakest indicator of anything. It doesn't tell me what you're gonna do. It doesn't tell me what you really think. People lie all the time for good reason or bad reason. So we look at things like we give them a test where they actually do the task, and then we look at all the actions they took in order to do that. So I'll give you a good example. Like one of the tests that we have is like, okay, I'm from Hong Kong. I need to renew I need to get my driver's license that I have from Hong Kong and get it to a Taiwan driver's license.
Fire.
So, and this is a person that's not from Taiwan trying to do this.
Right.
So there's different levels of how good someone does it. The base level is you can go on the website, there's an English version, you copy and paste, and then that's it. But then the next level is like there's some requirements like, oh, well, you need to go to the doctor for a medical check. So they'll list out that. Or maybe they'll give you a long list of all the medical clinics that you should go to. The next level is, okay, I'm gonna find the medical clinic that's near your house, and I'm gonna book you a time. The next level after that is, oh, here's the location and here's the medical clinic, and you need this certain amount of time in between to get things done. Okay, that's another level. Then another level is, okay, I found some time blocked in your calendar to do this, and I've got all these like these pre-activities you gotta do, and I've lined them all up so that you have a really good experience in order to do that. Oh, and by the way, I have some follow-up questions for you. Like, you know, how urgent is this? You know, where will you be around this time? Do you want to do it near your work or do you want to do it in your home? Like then, like most of them don't ask follow-up questions. So it's like that action of like, okay, I'm really trying to empathize in your shoes. How are you going to do this? But I don't know you really well, so I got to ask questions and figure out what's your preference and all the rest of the stuff. And so all those actions just tell me, like, it tells me a lot about you, like how you really care. How are you thinking about the journey that I'm about to go on? It's a journey,
right? You
know, and so you can tell a lot about a person just through that.
That's amazing. So you're assessing high agency type of people.
Yeah.
People who are really interested. They're like interested in what another human is going through.
Exactly. Empathy.
High levels of empathy.
High levels of empathy. Yeah.
What instilled this curiosity in you to kind of create this kind of service?
Yeah, so my other company that I have is a virtual events platform. So it's like
Oh,
Zoom.
we spoke briefly about this.
Yeah.
That's pretty fire too.
So it's like Zoom but on steroids.
Right.
It replicates the whole like networking environment really, really well. And so when I started this company, I finished the product around 2020 January. This
Nice.
is right before the pandemic.
Nice.
The pandemic hit in March, and my company grew from 6 people to 160 people in 10 months.
Wow.
So I went through this humongous roller coaster. My first son was born in 2020.
Wow.
So I was crazy overwhelmed. I burnt out multiple times.
Wow.
I missed my son's first steps. And after that, I realized like I was taking, I had these great accomplishments from work, but there were some of these really critical moments that I was not able to be a part of. And that made me really evaluate like, is this really worth it?
Wow.
And so I brought on an executive assistant, and eventually I also had to bring on a chief of staff as well during that period of time, and that just changed my life entirely. Like entirely changed my life. And it made me realize that I don't have to take those trade-offs of missing those life's precious moments with work. It is possible to do both. It's just you need to be really organized, hyper efficient with your time, and someone needs to manage that for you because you're just working, and sometimes you can't manage, that part of your life as effectively as you think you could.
Yeah.
And so when my EA came on and helped me, I realized like there's just it made me realize that ambitious people can work, but they can have quality time with your family, and it may not be all the time, but it's where it matters the most. And that is not a hard thing to accomplish. You know what I mean? I don't think that's a hard thing to accomplish. And it also helped me set really fixed borders between my work and personal life, and that fixed like time blocking, stuff like that. So there's all these techniques that I was able to really like figure out the balance of. And so that inspired me to create something where it wasn't just simply an EA, but it's somebody who really is helping on the personal and work side. And then also because the modern CEO has so many distractions, right? Not just work, but then there's like LinkedIn, there's like people cold calling you, there's like TikTok, there's all this stuff. I wanted to create a service where it really superpowered the modern CEO in today's age of AI. And that and AI is such an important thing that's going to change the way we work. It has changed the way we work.
Yeah.
I want our EAs to be at the cutting edge of that, so that we're not going to be obsolete, like in a few years.
That's amazing.
And so, so that's the reason why.
Who are these people? What are they like? What kind of character traits do these EAs have?
So a lot of them,
I feel like they're mirroring you. I feel like I get the vibe that like in order to create these EAs, I'm just sensing that you yourself are super empathetic and very super attention to detail. Are they following your lead? Are you coaching them, or is there?
Oh yeah, we built a 1 month boot camp. That's basically so the 1 month boot camp is a part of is what I feel what an EA should be doing and what a top tier EA, like what does 5-star look like? What's the Ritz-Carlton of EA?
Right.
So then I define what those are. So we have something called the Hermessi mindset, which is this Hermessi is like an acronym.
Are you allowed to break it down on the pod?
Yes, I can tell you a few. I can tell you a few.
I don't want to, I know you got some secret sauce IP in the bank,
So H means his goals are my goals.
But.
Which means that you are not doing a task, you're accomplishing my goal. What's my goal? What's my goal for this year? What's my goal for this quarter? I want to grow my revenue. What is that? I want to be more with my family. What is the goal? R means ravenous for learning. We're all about learning in terms of, because AI is changing too fast. It's just too fast. So and I want them to be on the cutting edge. Simplify and automate is the S. There's 2 S's. The other one is M, which is like make it dumb and kiss. Kiss means keep it simple, stupid.
Right.
Dumb means like whenever you say, like whenever you communicate, it's got to be as dumbed down as possible.
Right.
It can't be too complicated.
Right.
You know, people have to understand. It's funny because like when you communicate with CEOs, like you learn how to communicate really complex in school, but when you do communication with like higher level people, it's like the opposite. It's like you got to keep it as simple as possible.
That's hilarious.
For a CEO.
Counterintuitive.
Right? Yeah, it's counterintuitive. You're just like, it's got to be super dumb.
Yeah.
So those are the type of things that we would train them in. And so like I look for people who are detail oriented, obviously very proactive. We've got people who are like in their 20s, and we'll have people in their like late 30s and their 40s. They have kids. They work from home. They're, you know, the people that I like feel like I'm providing the most help are moms that work from home. I've met like so many Filipino women where I'm just like, holy crap, like they're just insane how crazy they are. Like they might have a husband, or the husband left, or the husband's gambling.
Wow.
Like they're just not present. And
they're balancing.
our EA has like 3 kids.
Yeah.
She's the breadwinner of the house. She takes care of the kids and has to work. And so I hear tons of these stories. And
wow.
that's the kind of like there is sort of like a social mission to what we do, but we don't really advertise it. But the social mission is, for me, is like really helping mothers, single moms, because my mom is a single mom.
Wow.
Single moms reach their highest potential and also to be able to have kids and take care of them and provide for the family. Because most moms, after they get away from industry, get away from work, it's hard for them to enter back into the workforce. They don't have the experience. They don't have anything. Like 3-4 years gap. Like, you know, what job they're going to work at McDonald's? You know, like that's probably the only options they have. But some of these moms are like really hecka smart. You know, they sacrificed their professional career to have kids, but then now they're on their second inning, you know, or their second half, the third or fourth quarter of the game, but they don't have any options. So I feel like that, and by the way, they don't work in the city. They don't live in the city. They live in some small town out in the province in the Philippines.
Wow.
On a farm.
Wow.
So what kind of economic like opportunity do they have? Not many. And so that's the thing that really makes me excited. I can able to like find amazing diamonds in the rough and just, you know, polish and make them, you know, really achieve their potential.
That's amazing. In your I guess assessment of the data of, you know, who you've helped, how you've helped them, are there any stories that have inspired you or have really like impacted you in a way that was unexpected? I guess to further that question, you know, is there somebody who's working on something and through your EA, through your company, they were able to then go on to create or be able to do something that they otherwise couldn't have?
So there's a good number. Like I had somebody that worked with me, worked for me for a long time. He was able to buy land and build a house on this land.
All from freeing up his time and using an EA to assist.
Oh no, this is a story of an EA.
Oh, the EA himself.
EA himself. So this is benefit of the EA.
Okay,
but
interesting.
But for the benefit of the client, for our clients, one client that I have right now, he travels like a lot, and because of what we've been able to do to kind of save him a lot of time, he was able to spend more time creating more authentic relationships and therefore building better partnerships. I'll give you an example. So I'll give you an example of what happened to him. So he basically, one of the things that, have you heard of Tom Cruise where he loves to send this like coconut cake to like
I haven't heard that
all
story.
of his stock? Like,
I haven't heard that story.
Yeah, so like.
But I heard that Tom is like extremely detailed when it comes to remembering names.
Yeah.
Engaging with people.
Yes.
He can like cold memorize everyone's names in a room and is able to kind of just communicate so effectively.
Yeah. He's really good. So he has this system, and he has like a personal assistant or whatever that does this. Like every time that a show wraps, or maybe it's somebody's birthday or whatever, he'll send them this huge coconut cake. He's famous for this big coconut cake.
That's wild.
And if you have a child or whatever, he'll send you a coconut cake. It'll be like from Tom Cruise, it's hand delivered. It's in this like,
That's wild.
it's like in this like freezer box thing, and it'll be, it says Tom Cruise on it. So he has been able to scale that authenticity of a human person, of being able to, and therefore being able to connect with people. So we did something similar for one of our clients.
Wow.
And he did it for like his investors, he did it for potential partners, he did it for integration partners that he worked with, and it made such a big impression. Now he can't do it himself, obviously, so we helped him create this like system where we had a list of all the most important people that he really want to make a good impression on, and marked all their things and paid attention to them, and the E8 helped do that. One of the partners that he works with, he has an integration with this other company. This company is massive, it's like a listed company. And his small company has an integration with them. So they have this really small, really short relationship. And he kept on like just doing this stuff.
Right.
And he may not respond. He'd be like, oh, this is cool, whatever. But over time, it built such a lasting impression that at some point he was like, okay, I want to sell my company. So he then pinged him and then said, hey, I want to have a call with you. I've been sending you some of the stuff. Like, what do you think about it? Blah, blah. Oh, yeah, I know. This is the CEO of the company. Oh, yeah, I know. You're sending all me this stuff. I'm so sorry. I don't want to respond. So yeah, come in, let's chat.
Just like that.
Through that conversation, he was able to sell his company to him.
Wow, just like that.
It's all human relationships.
What do you think that is? That there's certain analogies for that tipping point, that boiling point, that 100 times he sent that, so to say, metaphorical cake.
Yeah.
And the 101st cake, what does that mean to you? How do you like define that?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all human relationships, and even though you don't get an immediate response, but people see it. Until they say no or stop sending me cakes, it's there. You have the permission to keep bugging them. Do you know what I mean? It's only when they say no, okay, stop sending me emails or stop blah blah blah. If they don't say anything, that gives me permission to do more, right? So that also means like
persistence,
perseverance, exactly.
Perseverance, persistency.
Perseverance. And so I think perseverance is, when CEOs see perseverance, I mean, when I see perseverance, I'm like, wow, that's respect. Like, I like you, that you kept trying, and that's almost like that's impressive, because most people don't do that. Most people don't do that. They just stop. Like 2 weeks in, maybe 3 weeks, they stop. But if suddenly you did it like a year later, and you're like, oh wow, this guy's still at it. Damn, he's still really trying to get my business. Okay, I'll take this call. Just because you kept trying. All right, you know what? I'll try.
That's wild. That's the essence of the numbers game.
Yeah.
The so to say numbers game we all quote, right? It's just like every no is one no closer to a yes, so to say. But you're saying if they're not even saying no.
Yeah. It's a permission to keep going.
Wow. Maybe activate the noise cancellation.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Cut in.
Put the low thing loud.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
Noise cancelled right now.
Nice. So that's wild. So perseverance, by what you're talking about, moves mountains.
I mean, it's the hidden, it's the open secret, right? Everyone knows about it. Everyone knows about it. It's obvious. Like, all the greats do it. Michael Jordan, Warren Buffett, Kobe Bryant,
Right.
Sam Walton from Walmart, Steve Jobs.
Right.
Everyone does it,
Right.
right? But it's hard to actually do it.
Right.
To actually do it consistently. I mean, that's difficult.
Right. Who do you feel? Because I feel like you're very well versed in pop culture. You have a lot of amazing cultural references. Who do you feel is one of your go-to sources for for inspiration during times where you might not feel like sending that extra email or picking up that extra call? Like, is there someone you're like, yo, of course, Mamba mentality?
Yeah. The person who I look towards the most, because, and this is probably going to be a real controversial one, but it's also common because a lot of founders always talk about him. But I think is Elon Musk.
Elon is.
The reason is because like he's just gone through so much insurmountable failure. And there's this one particular moment that I always look to when I feel like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what I'm doing or can I really do this, is when he started SpaceX, he only had enough money to do 3 launches, something like that, like 3 test launches. All 3 of them failed. All 3 of them failed. So when the 3rd one failed, there's this picture of him kind of like kneeling and then in this tent, this huge tent, and the pieces of his rocket are all around the tent. They're categorized. They're trying to like categorize like, oh, this is the engine, this is the fuselage, and blah, blah, blah. He's sitting there and just looking at the pieces of his rocket.
Crazy.
In pieces. And think about it, like you're just like.
It just blew up.
It just blew up. I'm just like, oh my God, what the F am I gonna do now? You're just looking at the pieces of your creation, that picture. And
that's wild.
And then and so he managed to scrape up more money and took more of his own money from PayPal that he sold. So he's basically like he's almost got nothing. He's pretty much like nothing. This last launch, he was like, okay, I'm just gonna go all in. Let's seriously get this done and do it. And it worked. The 4th launch worked. And after that 4th launch, he achieved his right milestone. He was able to get more funding, and he's able to close some of the contracts from NASA because of that milestone he achieved. And it's like, I think some of Elon's greatest work is when they don't have money. Like they're just about to go bankrupt. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were like hinting at when it comes to that live moment. There's another archetype that I think is interesting, is when your back is against the wall.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's like, do or die.
Yeah, do or die, yeah.
How do you define that do or die moment, personally, as an entrepreneur yourself?
I mean, there's just so much, like it's basically you put all your chips on the table. You've got nothing left. Like that's it. It's either this or that's it.
How do you step forward in that? Like, what gives you that courage?
I think when you're working on something for a long time, and you can feel that you're a little bit close, but you also have to have a pretty solid plan. Like I would only do that where I'm like, okay, I have a really, really good plan onto and I have the confidence to put my chips on the table. If I don't have a plan, I mean, I would probably not do that. But then but what that would mean is that I'll have to go and build up that plan. Like go and talk to my team, talk to other people, talk to mentors, talk to more people to kind of like formulate, not just myself as well, but to try to formulate what that extra plan is, and then try to gauge the risk reward of it.
Yeah.
And then see if that makes sense. Because I'm sure that Elon must have done something similar. He's not dumb. He must have figured out that on that 4th one, okay, we've pretty much worked the kinks out of pretty much everything, and it's just this piece.
We got to give it one more go.
I think this is gonna make it, and it was probably, I don't know, maybe a 50-50 chance or something. Who knows? 60-40 chance, and he decided to roll on it.
That's wild. What's your relationship with risk taking?
I think risk taking. I think when you hear people take risks, like Microsoft or Steve Jobs or Zuckerberg, all these people who are like, oh, I'm gonna drop out of school, or I'm not gonna do the normal thing, I'm just gonna do something extreme. Almost in all these cases, it's not like doing comedy, I'm not gonna do anything, and I'm gonna go and grind on the comedy circuit, right? Yeah. Because that is really unknown. That's really unknown, right? You have to learn, you gotta get laughed at, You got to grind it. Like, it's really, really unknown. That to me is a very, very high risk endeavor. But most of these guys, Microsoft, all of them, they quit or they left because the company already has traction. Like, these people are not stupid. Like Zuckerberg left, dropped out of Harvard because he already had 10, 20 schools on Facebook already. And he was able to get funding. Microsoft was already making money on the side already. And then he decided to drop out of, I think he dropped out of school or something like that, and then decided to pursue this. There's the weighing of those two options isn't like nothing versus a job. It's significant something versus a job. Now that's still risky in the long term because of course like that company could fail in the long term. But I still think that's a decent risk because a decent risk to take on, especially if you're already making money. I mean, if you're already making money, like that's already good enough. And let's pretend that failed. But then the knowledge and everything that you learn from there
just gets transferred.
You can do something else after. So yeah, I mean, obviously, like you came with an idea, you just had to drop everything and then do that idea. Yes, that's pretty risky. Like I wouldn't even do that. I would still keep my day job.
Right.
Yeah.
Back to Hermessi. Where do you think this kind of this passion for empathy came from? Because it feels like that's really your X factor. These highly empathetic, high agency people. But I think empathy is super interesting to me.
One is through the virtual events platform, which is called Remo. Because when I created Remo, I've been working in remote distributed teams. Like over 80% of the people that I work with, I've never seen them in real life.
Wow.
Yeah. So when you're working remotely, you really don't know what's going on in their life.
Right.
You have zero. I was almost near zero.
Wow. You're seeing.
Sometimes even less than that.
You're seeing like a ghost of somebody almost.
Even less than that sometimes. I just see your text. That's it. Like I'm just seeing someone's text. Text in a channel or whatever. So because of that experience, you have to generate a lot of empathy. A lot of empathy. In order to fully understand what their life is, like what's going on in their life.
Right.
And also, you're working from home too. When you work at home, when you work at work, it's like you're sealed off from home. You're just working with your colleagues and that's it. But when you're working from home, your kids are screaming, the dog's barking, people coming in and out. You got FedEx coming. You got all this stuff happening at home.
Right.
That situation you have to understand to give you context about what's happening with that person. Like that impacts their performance. That impacts their mood. That impacts how well they're doing. That impacts maybe they didn't sleep well the night before. All that stuff, and that determines someone's performance, and you have to understand that before you start saying, "Hey, you did not do well here." You know.
Why do I get a sense that there's almost even some like Buddhist philosophy undertones? This concept of like acceptance or not assuming almost. Do you have any influences from those realms?
Not directly, not directly from Buddhism. I think it's just, I think personally I've also been burned a lot of times where like I made a lot of assumptions, and then when I ask deeper questions, I'm just like, oh man, I just grossly misjudged someone, and I looked like a fool,
right?
And I had to say sorry, and when they explain, what's going on, like you're just like, oh man, like I didn't know, and it's not your responsibility. It's not their responsibility to tell you. With the people who you're working with, it's your responsibility, in my mind, to figure that out. If you have a problem with their performance or something, I believe it's your responsibility.
Right. I want to talk more about the you said it's called Vimo?
Remo. Yeah.
I remember you mentioned this is like a new way of conference calling. Can you describe a little bit more about like what kind of space that exists in environments? Like, you know, I remember you showed me a sample. It was almost like a video game template where every person was able to move in three-dimensional space and connect and contact each other. How does that work technically?
Yeah, so imagine it's like a 2D floor plan, like an architecture floor plan of, let's say, for example, the restaurant we were in last time.
Yeah.
You see the tables, you see the bar. So each table and bar has like these like small faint circles around them, which is where, you know, you would sit.
Right.
And like I would have this avatar, which is basically this circle with my face on it.
Right.
And then like in this map of all these different tables, I would double click on this table and then my circle would move there. And you double click on that table and your circle would move there. And then when we're both together, right above the map, both of our faces would show up.
Right.
And so I only hear and see the people that are sitting in this table. And if there's a table here with 4 other people, I can't hear and I can't see them.
Wow, that's interesting.
And so it's you don't have to, it's not that complicated like a game. Like you have to click on the arrows to move. No. You just
ergonomic.
You just point and click. It's super simple point and click. And the reason why people love it is because when you go to a typical online webinar, it's a very passive experience. It's like, you know, it's like as if we went to go listen to a talk and we were forced to sit in a seat and we can't talk to each other. And then we just have to watch, not a person speaking, but a video of someone speaking.
Right.
And you're sitting next to me and I can't talk to you. I was like taken to my seat and then that's it. That's what a webinar experience is like.
Right.
In physical form.
Right.
What we do is you can double click into any table, any spot. You can go in there and you can talk to whoever you want. So you have control of the experience, and it's more closer to reality.
Right.
That's why what people love about our product.
Right. And I remember we were kind of getting hyped too, because like there's even levels of evolution to that experience as well. Because now when we talk about AR being integrated more rapidly into our everyday lives, right? The dream is that James Bond moment where you come into a space and you get like little credentials on everyone in the room just from you get the heads up display in the video game, which then I imagine is almost like a step away from having an EA right in your glasses.
Yeah. We've been talking a lot about this, like how do you create a better experience in terms of networking and finding the people who you want to talk to. So we have done some of the like informational stuff about that, but we haven't stepped into AR yet. I mean, that's pretty hardcore. That's pretty hardcore. We're not hardware people, unfortunately.
But I mean, it's there though. That the concept is fire. Right?
Yeah.
Just 100%. The aspect of like innovating the webinar networking space. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, like leaps and bounds, but it starts with a step. That really intrigued me, the fact that you're trying to create the IRL, the in real life experience in a web version in a way that feels more human.
Yeah, 100%. What's
some of the biggest requests that your clients like ask of your EAs? What do they want help with the most?
So there's the core foundation, which we call the core foundation, which is email inbox zero, which means you go through your emails and just unsubscribe to stuff, deal with cold emails.
Wow.
Like just basically just clean everything out so that you have no emails. It's zero. That's
like a top demand?
Yeah.
A top request?
That's a request. Second is calendaring, and third is like travel and activities. So this is the core foundation. And then after that we have like social media management. So like, can you reach out to people for me on LinkedIn, and can you help me generate leads? Can you help me generate content from LinkedIn? Like I have this concept or this topic in my mind I want to talk about. Can you take it from my, verbal vomit of a voice message or whatever stream of consciousness into something that's organized,
Right.
and then post it for me on LinkedIn, and and so it's a lot about like trying to promote authority, like topical authority.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fascinating, and it almost reminds me of. I know I mentioned a big inspiration for this show is my interest and curiosity with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but it almost sounds like you have a hierarchy of needs from CEOs.
Oh my gosh.
And their first need is to
Oh my gosh.
to clean their email box. That's
Oh my
that's food
gosh.
and shelter for them.
So you know what's hilarious? So there's the Maslow's pyramid of needs.
Yeah.
So I actually created a Hermessi pyramid of needs.
Fire. Can you share? Can you share what it is?
Yeah, so it's exactly what you said. It's the core foundational email stuff.
That's so funny though.
On the
Like
top-
I need to clean my email cache first and foremost. Before I feel like I can go outside,
Yeah,
I need to clean my
100%.
before I feel like I can present myself on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
I need to clean my room.
yeah. The second is like work tasks. So it could be like research. It could
Yeah.
be like accounting, bookkeeping, taxes, doing research on a certain topic. And then after that, it's like home, family, relationships.
Boom.
So it's like, how do you make sure that I can optimize my relationships with my family if needed? Make sure I remember the birthdays of the people who are important to me. And then how do I keep in contact with what I was saying, like that list of partners or people that I want to maintain relationships with. And then after that, it's like personal fulfillment and growth, which includes like not managing your finances, but like, for example, some of our CEOs, like they have different investments, they've got a bunch of things, so they want to like a view of that. So it's like a consolidation of your finances and stuff, or just figuring out. But then also like personal fulfillment, like for example, I want to learn how to play pickleball.
That's dope.
So, I want to learn a new sports skill. I want to learn something. How can you help me design something where I can just start to learn it, and
Wow.
give me some accountability on it. Like, I want to learn a language, but set some time each week so that I can do that, and here are the goals and all that kind of stuff. It's more on like the personal fulfillment side, like wellness. and stuff like
That's
that.
interesting. What is the boundary between like an EA and like just one of your best friends? Do you guys have certain like, because it almost seems like in a perfect world everyone has an executive assistant, a hyper assistant that's just like they're like ride or die, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, an executive assistant is someone who knows you really well. I think they know you better than your best friend. Personally.
Right.
They'll know you better than your best friend, and
they're more efficient.
Yeah,
There's
they're
an
more efficient.
there's an efficiency aspect to this relationship,
yeah,
which is not a relationship many people talk about. I don't think
No.
we hear this in the mainstream at all, about like
No.
having someone in your life who is like sharp, cares about you, wants you to win. So it's like it has these elements of like a coach, a caretaker, a consultant, an advisor.
yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think so. Because we don't recruit, because we recruit the best from all over the world, we're able
Right.
to find people from, like, we find people from the Philippines, from Kenya, from Mexico. We find people who really have potential opportunities to unlock themselves, but they don't have those opportunities. And so when they come into our lives, they work really hard, and it becomes relatively affordable for us, like in a more developed country. And I envision it that like it's, if you have a family, or you don't have to run a business, but if you're managing a team, or you're just really busy and you want to balance things together in your life, especially if you have a family, because I have 2 kids, and balancing those 2 things is hard. It's not easy. It's really, really not easy.
No, I know.
And so having help to manage your life, and just like it's like for kids, for when you have kids, right? when you have your parents help you manage your kids, help you out with the kids, it makes a huge difference for for me and my wife or whatever. So, we're in Asia, we're very, very lucky, right? In Asia, we actually have options, like cheaper options for nannies and to help out.
Right.
So I'm from Hong Kong, and it's cheaper actually in Hong Kong to get a helper nanny than in Taiwan.
Wow.
It's cheaper. And I can tell you that a lot of my friends have said a helper nanny saved their relationship, saved their marriage.
Wow.
Because there's just a lot of stress. Like taking care of kids is a lot of stress, man.
Wow.
It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of freaking work. So someone to help you out, and sometimes your parents, for whatever reason, some parents don't help out as much, or they're a bit too far, or it's inconvenient, or whatever reason. But if you have someone that can help you out, it makes a really big difference. And that same concept applies to you're in the workplace, but on a different dimension, which is like your work and personal, and trying to balance all of that.
Right.
It's very similar model, is the way how I see it.
I mean, the more I listen, the more I just can imagine you learn so much from having, one of your EAs able to kind of help direct your focus. Because I think ultimately, what do you define as focus in your life? And I mean, you're balancing a lot too. I mean, that's why you created something for other people to kind of help increase focus and direction.
100%. 100%. Like, yeah, focus, it's like at work, it's like your zone of genius, right? Your ikigai. At home, it's
ikigai. Ooh,
yeah,
that sweet spot.
Exactly. And then at home, it's like what you care about in terms of your family and family, home, personal life. And there's been, it's like your wellness. Some people care about their health, their wife, kids. All those factors is where your focus is going to be, and so it just helps clarifies that for you. It really help you really focus on those things. That's why I think it's important.
What are you excited for next? Moving into this phase of, Hermessi is running. What gets you excited to continue this kind of work?
I'm excited because I get to work with amazing, top-notch, really talented, ambitious people, and just help them solve their problems. Is basically it. Either through an EA or not. Like the EA could help them in some ways, but it may not be able to help them. So I'm really excited because then the sales process is really about me just learning about your problems, just trying to figure out what I can do to help. I like that. There's really that kind of process is just, it's not a sell. I don't see that as a sell. Like, I'm not gonna sell, hey, how are you managing your email? How are you doing calendaring and all that kind of stuff? Because most people don't really need that help, really. They can manage it themselves. It's like, it's okay. It's not, the problems that people have is not those. It's more deeper in terms of like, I've got these goals in my life and I'm struggling to achieve those goals. Okay, so then we go from there and backtrack and figure out what are the ways how we can help them get there. And that is more rewarding because you're helping people achieve their goals. You're helping people achieve the maximum potential. Yeah.
Is your EA still with you from 2020?
Yeah, she's still with me.
Wow.
She's still with me. She's like part of my family. She's fam.
Wow.
She's fam.
She opened up the can of kick-ass.
No, man, she's amazing. She's really, really good. She's one of the, and as you said, she's one of the people that will talk to me truthfully. Like, hey, you've booked all these meetings, you're doing all this stuff. Do you really need to do all this stuff? I'm like, yeah, you're right. I don't need.
Do I gotta send your EA a coconut cake?
Yeah.
Did she approve this? She approved this podcast? Yo, shout out.
Yeah, seriously, yeah.
What's her name?
Josephine.
Josephine, shout out. I appreciate the allowance.
Yeah, I love
the allowance for Ho Yin. She gave the green light.
She gave the green light. No, Josephine's great.
No, that's cool. Yeah. What do you think is a driving force behind all of this for you, beyond the work, beyond the family? What do you think what's your why?
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, like why I decided to do Hermessi. I think, one of the things that when I created Remo, one of the tenets that I have in the company is about human centricity, like creating something that's really human centered. Like Remo is very human-centered. Like our motto is like creating authentic conversations that build meaningful relationships.
Ooh, what a statement.
So when you think about that, and I think about it, like one question I always ask like the candidates that kind of work with us is like, what's like a human-centric experience that you created in your work or at home? It doesn't really matter. Like, did you think about the experience, the journey that somebody goes on? And how did you do that? So I'll give you a really simple example. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. Let's say, for example, you planned a birthday party,
right,
and the birthday party is in this place, this room. Some people will just say, here's the address. Some people, they'll say, here's the address, and they'll take photos from the moment you step off of the train and photos of all the steps you go with arrows to point to which door to go into where. Right, and right. They put labels and signs like from the building all the way to the top.
Right.
That's human-centered.
Yeah, that's the attention to detail. I mean, that's the classic, even with our elders, like, just send the Google link. Send me the Google link.
Yeah.
The classic, like, oh no, it's just right there. Take a right, send me the geotag. What do you think it is about that process of thinking that maybe some people have, some people don't? How do you develop that?
Well, big part of it is empathy. And the second part is just like, you think about like, you're putting yourself in your shoes. It's like, are they really gonna be able to get to this place? Like that thought of, yeah, it's just empathy, really. I mean, that all ties down to empathy. Do they really understand? Do they really care about the people who are coming? And are they really detailed enough to say, oh, they may get confused the moment they step out of the train. Okay, I better clarify this. Oh, I better do this.
Where do you think you got these traits from? Is this coming from mom or coming from?
I don't know. I'm not too sure. Like I'm not too sure. I have to think about it a little bit. But.
Were you always that kind of man? Like just I'm gonna make sure this is black.
No. I think it was gradual. Yeah, it was very gradual.
Because that's fire, man. I mean, honestly, I try my best to be as detail-oriented as possible and to think about, just in communication and language, like simple things, just giving that little extra direction.
So this goes back to like we were talking before about like a podcast, right? We were talking about, okay, what kind of ideas for a podcast? And I said, I'm not sure if I want to do a podcast. I want to do something different. And like that's kind of like the same process on my process is like, what's the journey of a person when they're like gonna choose what podcast to listen to or what thing to do? What are you doing? Like, how are you gonna create something really, really different that's engaging, that makes them want to stay? And so that's like a puzzle, and I'm trying to figure out the puzzle piece. But that's the same thing, which is like I'm thinking, okay, why do I continue listening to some podcasts? And I was thinking at the end of the day, it's entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, an effective, great podcast is entertainment. Or learning. But the learning part also is entertainment because there's a story. There's a story. So for example, there's a podcast called Acquired Podcast, which is like one of the top business podcasts. All it talks about is they'll talk about a company. They'll talk about, let's say like Jensen Huang's NVIDIA.
Right.
And they'll talk about the story of NVIDIA from nothing to where it was today.
Oh, they'll just dive in on it?
It's deep dive. So
they'll dissect it.
They'll read all these biographies. They'll go do a ton of research. And then they'll say, okay, this is what Jensen Huang went through. He went from this, NVIDIA basically almost died like 3-4 times.
Wow.
Like, he almost died. Like, Jensen comes from a cut of cloth of startups that were like all the way when there was still Silicon Valley. Because right now there's no Silicon Valley anymore. There's the chicks that nobody makes chips. Silicon Valley started down in California, where it was like the microchip revolution. And that was like in the 80s and 90s, man. Jensen Huang is OG. He's from there,
OG.
And then went through, the internet boom of 01, the mobile boom of 08, and then now
he went through mad super cycles.
Yeah, he went through all the super cycles.
Black leather jacket.
I mean, he's really OG. I mean, he's basically Steve Jobs level OG. Bill Gates level OG.
That's a wild case study right now in our that we've seen in this time frame.
Yeah, he's probably one of the last. Maybe I don't know if he's the last. Like Mark Benioff, maybe SAP is probably some of the guys from SAP, but I don't hear anybody from SAP.
I think that's cool that you mentioned podcasts because I'm a very free associator. I like to understand and see if there's connections between everything. And when you say podcast, it makes me think of where content is headed as a whole and how humans are consuming information in 2024 and perhaps into the next cycle. And it's fascinating that you're in the, Ritz-Carlton of assistance.
Yeah.
But I can almost reach to look at podcasts as our new teachers or assistants 100%. In a way.
100%.
Right? It's like how you can listen to heroes in real time. It reminds me of some of my favorite philosophers. If we were to be able to be at the Palladium or the Pantheon and gathered around and listen to some of the great philosophers, we're in that time now.
Yeah, 100%.
How does podcasting and modern day content affect you and inspire you?
I listen to like 3-4 podcasts a week, and and then I'll also watch the short clips as well, because there's some podcasts I can't stay for the whole thing. Like there's some sports podcasts I'm not able to sit through the whole thing, but I'll watch the clips. Like Club Shay Shay, I'll watch the clips.
Cat Williams started the year off crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Black podcasting is huge now. It's massive now. I mean, it's great because it gives everybody a way to express and just break away from traditional media. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. Not just comedians, but I think Conan, the two guys from Cheers, which is those two guys. They used to have The Good Place. They used to be on The Good Place. Anyways, there's two old guys from the Cheers, not the OGs from the Cheers TV show. Right. They're doing their own podcast under Conan's network. So that's all these artists, actors are all coming out, doing stuff. And I think
I've been noticing that.
So I think so podcasting is definitely a legit place to. Yeah, it's more authentic. People are more open, and for sure.
Yeah, it's becoming this. Quoting Elon, of course his platform is the town square, but I think the internet as a whole is becoming a town square of just extraordinary connective abilities. And I'm hyped because I saw another podcast I mentioned with Greg Eisenberg. He has a podcast all about startup ideas, and one guy was wondering how AI might affect podcasting, where imagine you can watch a podcast, pause it, and then that person viewing can start talking to you.
Oh wow!
Because the AI is trained on you.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? At what point are we starting to bend the dimension a little bit of interface?
Crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
Because I was talking with Armel, this is episode. What episode is this, Armel?
20.
This is episode 20. It's episode 20, bro.
Wow.
It's episode 20.
Good.
But what's living is only episode 5.
Oh, okay.
But you see how there's an interdimensional clash where we're here and now.
Right.
But I'm looking at that content and it's weird. It's that's not right now. That's something else. And then to think that when you guys are gonna watch this, me and Ho Yin, we're gonna be in the future.
Yeah.
Right? So it's how do we bridge that gap, do you think?
Yeah.
If you had to play with that thought experiment, how do you think we can bridge the gap between content that's recorded and content that's live, as you were talking about?
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about recorded content is that people can listen to whenever they want. When I put my sons to sleep, that's when I'm listening to podcasts.
That's fire.
That's my podcast moment, or I'm on the train or whatever. So that's the good thing about podcasts, because you can it's on demand. You can watch it whenever you want. Live content has a big problem. That's one of the reasons why most people don't do live. Live as in okay, it's like a TV show, old school TV show. We're on at 4 p.m. every Thursday, or 5, 6 p.m. every Thursday. Like that's the old school method of how people used to interact with stuff.
Right.
But nobody really, I don't think anybody wants to do that anymore. Like with Netflix, everything's on demand, you know? So that's why the live concept, you know, I was telling you about Killing Tony, who
what you said is fire, right? It's doing well.
It's doing well. So that's why
and that's a live audience he's doing?
That's what I'm saying. Like if that's why if
bringing it
somebody
back.
was able to do a live audience show, get people to listen and look at it live, to me, that's amazing. Because I haven't seen anyone really do that now in the age of Netflix and podcasts.
Yo, this is me getting hyped. You need to hit up Tony. He needs to integrate. Why do I keep forgetting? What's the name of it? Zemo?
Remo.
Remo.
Yeah.
Remo. Have you explored that field of like, let's say we host a live event powered by Remo, and all the audience members can interact online while watching a live stream.
That's like my dream, to be able to do something similar to that. I've done some tests in the past.
Sounds like a crazy web of technical.
No, so it can be done. It can be done. We've done it. We've done it actually, but it's just I'm missing something. I haven't been successful at it. I've tried multiple times.
What do you think the piece is? What do you keep?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's the topic. I don't know if it's the content. I don't know if it's not consumer enough. Maybe it's not consumer enough. I don't know. Most of the time, it's mostly like business stuff, like webinar, training, teaching, and it really wasn't anything like consumer. Because consumer, that will draw the audience, like a comedy show, right? They'll draw the audience. But if it's business podcast, like that kind of stuff, it's I haven't been able to make it work. And frankly, I haven't seen anyone else externally make it work either.
Right, because it's everything is like a mirror or a reflection from the real world.
Yeah.
Real world, we're sitting in a seat and we're watching a stage.
Yeah.
Watching one or a cast of people speak on stage.
Yeah.
And maybe we're whispering to our friend.
Yeah.
But I can't whisper to the guy 3 rows back.
Right.
So then the closest thing I think is like maybe the Twitter space model.
Yeah.
Right? The Twitter space is kind of cool.
Yes.
But all the listeners can't talk to each other actually.
Right, they can't, yeah.
But through Remo they could.
Yeah. Actually, you're right. So for Twitter Spaces is probably the closest thing that I've seen that's relatively successful, which is only audio only, where you can listen. But a Twitter Spaces is what you said. It's a audio only webinar.
Right. Still, like you said, the box.
Still
You're still in a box.
Yeah, still in a box.
And the closest thing they did to give some kind of human was the little wave.
Right.
The wave animation.
Right.
Or the hearts.
Yeah.
But technically through Remo, you're telling me they can possibly talk?
Yeah.
Or I can click at that. Yo, come on, that's crazy.
I can bring people up. Like, you know what's crazy about Twitch? They can't even do bringing people up that well. I think they just opened that feature. Isn't that crazy? You're on a stream and you can't bring one of your audience members up.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they just released
Twitch can't do that?
Yeah, they just released the feature. They can do it, but they have to manually connect them from another platform and then bring them over, and then bring it over manually through through like a broadcasting software. You know, like it's all manual.
I love the there's an example of this thing. I forgot the term. People comment the term once I tell the story. We put a man on the moon before we put wheels on a suitcase.
No, really? I didn't know that.
I forgot what that thing is, that term. But it's like, how many of these things exist right in front of us, but because collectively as a group, we all don't see it, or no one has done it yet, for it to be completely obvious, that we're stagnant or we're kind of stuck. And you just said it, like Twitch just was able to bring stuff like that I'm thinking like it's just right in front of us right now.
Yeah. I don't know. Like that's why I think live is a hard thing to do. It's pretty hard. The only closest thing that live is really successful at is like those live stream apps, like 17 and all those things.
Never heard of those.
Yeah, they're just like chicks, like on
classic.
Like That's the only thing I've seen that's actually relatively successful. And the guys like send gifts and stuff like that. Like that's the only thing I've seen.
Primal.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's primal. That's the only thing I've seen that's
inherent natures. We were just talking about those energies of like, you mentioned entertainment, but of course one of the strongest energetical forces of our world is to survive and replicate.
Yeah.
Right, that
100%.
That sexual energy of the youth.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you feel like that kind of, is that something that you're aware of when it comes to, I mean, I guess your target audience, your target market is more like CEO types, more established, but what's your relationship with like the youth demographic when it comes to content and the products you've developed?
With
the implications are there though, with what you're developing, because I think of the movie Her, right?
Yeah.
And of course, there's a fine line with EA to the EA becoming sentient.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. I mean, I think at some point you probably will get some sentience and some AI for sure. I think it's kind of, you see pockets of it happening right now, but at the current trajectory, I think for sure, like people are gonna have relationships with AI. I think that's definitely gonna happen for sure. I think that's gonna be hard for some people. Maybe having a relationship with AI is much easier than talking to people in real life. For some, I think that's definitely gonna be. Well, because you got a lot of people that play games, right? They don't like to go out, and they just like they just really love playing games and interacting with in a certain way online or whatever. Like that already exists. So now you're creating an advanced version of that. So for young kids, I think we definitely, for me, I really truly believe that for my kids, like I'm not going to give them a cell phone. I'm not going to give them exposure.
Cold turkey on them. Cold turkey on them. Here's a walkie-talkie.
No, not even a walkie-talkie, man. You need to talk to people.
Yeah.
You need to talk to kids. You know, people, and I don't care if the other kid has TikTok. You're not getting TikTok. That's just not happening.
Right. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Social Dilemma, that documentary.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you have some of the creators of these technologies just keeping it away from their own children, you start to ask some critical questions.
Yeah, no, it's super clear. I mean, just think about it this way. I think about it this way. Alcohol companies and back in the day, or even now today, and cigarette companies their form of manipulation was, I'm gonna put it in a movie, or I'm gonna put it on this ad, I wanna make it look cool. And they're already doing manipulation to manipulate kids back in the day to do that. And it wasn't until we said, you gotta put this warning sign on there, till they got stopped. Social media is doing the same thing to their end, right? They want people to keep on clicking, so they're manipulating. They're doing the same thing, except that it's an algorithm, right? It's the same thing. They're doing what's best financial interest for them.
Right.
So then you've got regulation for alcohol and cigarettes and drugs, because they have money to manipulate people to do that. And so that should be the same thing to social media, because young people do not have enough knowledge or enough ability to make the decision themselves.
I see what you're saying. You're saying social media itself should be treated as a substance, and almost like an informational substance.
Well, if you think about it, it's the same thing, because they give you dopamine hits. Right. What does a drug do? The drug also gives you a dopamine hit.
But they're in this what is it? This like free space of
it's a free space.
You can't.
Yeah. But
because alcohol is a liquid. I see what you mean. They're in an intangible.
The end physiological body response
is the same as a tobacco or that's an interesting.
Exactly. Take. It's the same. So if it's the same, it doesn't matter what the substance is.
Yo, lawyers, intangible drug substance. Are we able to define that? in the future? I don't know. That's a very interesting take.
I think you can. I think it's already defined. It's clearly defined that through TikTok you keep scrolling because you get a dopamine hit.
Right, but you know what I'm saying. I'm talking about like, will they like by legislation or, established as a community say, social media or this is a there's a term on it. So like this is an X type of substance.
Yeah, like a
alcohol
substance.
is a liquid substance.
It's a digital substance.
Is it tobacco is a physical?
Yeah.
This is a type bang digital something.
Yeah, it's like a digital addiction. Yeah. So
interesting.
So in China, they're already put in like legislation. Actually, like games will shut off at a certain time. You can't play a game after a certain time.
I want to get into something about this.
So they already do that actually. They already do that.
That's crazy. Speaking of games though, now that we're on the topic of addiction, because the argument to addiction could also be to the bodybuilder.
Right.
Is addicted to self-improvement.
Right.
You're an entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur. You're addicted to empathy, to helping people, to leveling up.
Yeah.
Now you've mentioned games a few times. I'm just wondering, has Hermessi ever gamified the process of self-improvement? Have you gamified it for your clients, where it's like, let's say I'm like, Hermessi, do me a favor, structure my whole year as a video game for me.
Right.
Plug it in for me.
Right.
And give me I want to feel those dopamine hits of just like my road to becoming a millionaire.
Yeah. I haven't gone that far from a client executive part, but I do try to gamify it from the EA part.
That's dope.
Yeah, I have done that with the EA part. Yeah, with like, seniority, years of experience, the company.
That's dope.
I've done a lot of stuff on that side. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's cool. How about when it comes to, I guess, your definition of wealth, your definition of success? Are you in the game yourself? Do you feel like there's levels you have, or bosses you have to, I'm thinking of that classic Super Mario world map.
Yeah.
How do you see your life? Is it an RPG? Are you in a, you know what I mean?
Is it an RPG? I think I see it like I think there's different phases. I see it as phases, chapters. And I'm not at a chapter where I can create. I'm at a phase where like I have kids. I want to help them.
Yeah, you want to
live them have them like build the right foundation.
Right.
Teach them early on the things that I learned through being, my journey. So I see it more as like of different phases, and I think financial independence is important. I don't know if like you need to be super wealthy, but you have to be financially independent. And financially independent means like you can do the things that you want to do without taking a job or whatever. I think that's what I've been constantly striving for, is making sure that I can be financially independent, and then doing the things that makes me happy and do that, because I feel like that's the ultimate freedom for a lot of folks. And the earlier that you get to that, I feel like the more free you can be. But you there's a lot of work and steps you have to do to get there. I think not everyone is somebody, I wasn't that person. Like some people are able to do that at 18, 19. I wasn't that person. Like it took me till like I was 30 until I really wanted to do that. Right. Some people it takes them to maybe 40 or 50 or whatever. So whatever at the time frame that fits you, I think getting there is what's most important. And if you can get there earlier, and you want to do it earlier, then all power to you. And there's a lot of ways to do that. A ton of ways to do that.
Do you believe in transcendence? Do you believe there's a point where you will have hit all your I guess it's a never-ending journey, but do you believe there's a point where you feel like you go higher? Or what is your definition of transcendence?
I don't know if I'm ready to answer that question yet. I don't know. mean, I feel like there might be an answer. I feel like I'm not there yet.
I feel you.
I think I'm not there yet. How about you? What did you think? What's your idea though?
For me, I think like, again, I go back to the needs. The needs is like a framework, right? If you don't worry about money, if you're completely financially free, and what are you left with after all finances are covered? Mm-hmm. I don't have kids yet, but in your case, you want to make sure your kids are good, they're set, they're on the right path. Yeah. And then you're left with yourself, your wife is good or whatnot, and then you're left with yourself and your own passions and your own curiosities. Where do you go from there? So then I almost feel like you go in. You go into like the questions of the greats, like where do we come from? Mm. Who are we? Why are we here? And of course that goes into uncharted waters, right? Right. And I guess a prompt would be, is there a number for you, I guess, in the framework of like success? For example, like if I offered you 10 million, what do you do with that?
Yeah.
What do you do next with that? Do you continue to build out on Hermessi? Do you create a new one? What is your take on the I guess the currency or the energy of currency, which is currently in the form of money?
If I had an extra $10 million, what would I do with it?
An extra.
Yeah, extra $10 million, just lying around.
Little side flex.
Yeah, I was just sitting in crypto, and it suddenly became $10 million.
Hey.
I think like I would probably. Well, I've always wanted to create a company that. I was inspired by a guy named Muhammad Yunus. He actually won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Really?
He brought back microlending in Bangladesh.
Brought back what?
Microlending.
Microlending.
Yeah. So he popularized microlending, and then they kind of got bastardized by all these like big companies, big banks, and stuff like that. But the concept of microlending is like you got people in Bangladesh who are like, they have no money, they're living in subsistence, and they would make these baskets. Like the woman would make baskets, but they needed some money to like get the materials and make the baskets. So then they would do these weekly loans to these moms. Like, I'll give you some money, you make the baskets, you make the money, and you pay back the loan. So it was because a lot of these women would never get the loans from the banks. They've got nothing. There's no collateral.
No collateral.
So he pioneered this model concept, and they would then go from weaving baskets to then getting loans, make enough money to then put like a latrine, which is like a toilet in their like house, and then get enough money to get like a aluminium roof, like simple stuff like that. Yeah. And so he kind of repopularized the concept of a social business. So it's an actual business. It's for profit, but it was able to create a business that actively helped people to achieve certain goals. Like in this case, was like to actually have a house.
Sounds like its own chemical reaction, like a social chemical reaction.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool, but it's really difficult to solve these problems.
Right, of course.
It's incredibly difficult. So the benefit of what he did is most nonprofits, most stuff that do this, especially not a nonprofit, are not scalable in terms of impact. So you get all this money and you get all these things, but the impact is just so small, and it's very momentary. Like, and also, you give people money or you buy stuff for whatever aid or whatever, you stop it. And then what happens?
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually solve the problem. It's a momentary stimulant.
Right.
So it's not really long term.
It's a different type of dopamine.
Yeah, exactly.
For certain people.
Exactly. So
charity is an interesting.
So exactly. So that's why charity is slightly. I don't know if I'm sure in some cases it does. Like in a lot of cases it does actually. Like if there's a disaster, okay, yeah, all right, I get it. solving like blindness or whatever. Okay, fine, I get that.
But then most people know it's its own funnel. It's a funnel of its own, and of course the most direct way to help is to send funds. I remember I was at the 2019 TED conference in Vancouver, and there's a guy who created a system of charity where you can see areas that are in struggle, and it is almost like a B2C. Like you can just directly send money and send goods without the charity organization as a middleman. That's interesting cool. Too.
But at the end of the day, like these problems are really hard to solve.
Oh yeah.
And the only solution that has had any kind of realistic positive traction that actually works is some form of capitalism. So, for example, Muhammad Yunus, he made this. The bank is called Grameen Bank, which just did this weekly lending thing. If you think about it, I'm lending you money to do what? To create baskets, and then do what? To sell them. That's a business. I'm just funding your business.
This is interesting.
That is capitalism, actually.
Right.
So even his business is a form of capitalism that raises people up. So, like, it's a really difficult problem to get these poor areas. You can't just give them money. You can't just give them tools. You can give them tractors and everything and all the equipment, but like, if there's no real capitalistic cycle happening, like people are not going to come out of poverty. Like there might be some exceptions maybe that I'm not aware of, but at scale, I'm talking about at scale, like that's really hard. And the problem with the capitalism part is usually the government's job to do that. But the government, for whatever reason, is against that or doesn't want to do that.
Elon and his first principle, championing first principle thinking and the lack of it in most of our higher governmental leadership, right?
So I'm sure there's maybe examples where some people have been successful. I'm sure there are, but my guess is that's more rare than common. And so it's because it's so hard. It's such a freaking hard problem. Like Mr. Beast solves blindness and builds 100 homes.
You saw that, right?
Stuff, yeah.
And then he gets hate.
He's hate because all these people are they hate him because it's not only this is because it's a hard problem.
Yeah,
it's a hard problem.
It's even more complex.
It's a very complex problem, and he's simplified it and made it into good content. Yeah. But you can't blame him for helping people, and also providing exposure. But it's also understand why it's frustrating for people because it's like it's not like him doing that once. Oh,
I know.
Everything's done. Hey, we've solved hunger.
It's the sci-fi analogy.
The reality.
It's the alien comes to a lesser developed race, teaches them fire, then leaves. And then fast forward, we start creating nuclear weapons.
Exactly.
That's a whole nother can of worms. I guess my last question to you, I know we're reaching this time. I'm not at the 4 hour. I could take it 4 hours, but I know we're not on that wave.
I don't mind too. Let's do it.
Right?
No, I'm just kidding.
So my last question, kind of segueing into a little bit more open-ended, we'll leave the viewers on I'm sure they can continue to follow you and what you're doing because super fascinating, amazing work. I'm very curious about the future of the role of people leading into a more AI-focused world because I think people are losing. You talk about that idea of microlending to help people make baskets. Help me understand what's the next analogy for baskets that people will start making in an AI-ruled world.
That's a good question. I mean,
as robotics takes over as well.
I think it goes, at the end of the day, it goes to creating. I'm not sure if AI can truly do human creation. Like it can't, it's right now, it's at the level it's doing some creation right now. Like it's able to create like images and stuff like that and all that, but there's something missing in those images. And as I said before, like you would have to put out hundreds and thousands of images for it to figure out what is it that resonates. I still think that the creation process is probably maybe one of the only things that humans can do. But when I say creation and curation, that's not just like art. It means like creating a company. It's like like creating a coaching program. It's like it's just creating something. It's not doesn't have to be art. And I think that part I would like to think is cannot be taken. It probably cannot be taken away. And if it can be, I think government should be responsible for saying, okay, look, we're going to not allow AI to do that part. Like we need to preserve some elements of what humans need to be able to do, and I think governments need to be pretty responsible, and companies need to be really responsible for doing that. So I think that's kind of maybe like where it could potentially go, because at the end of the day, if people like, okay, you used to have horse-drawn carriages, and then now you have cars, right? And then the car does everything better, everything faster.
Right.
But you just get a whole new set of problems.
Right.
Then you got the plane. Well, now there's another whole set of problems after getting the plane. Like, I think humans have a very consistent method of being able to find struggle. And that struggle point is somewhere, for AI, is somewhere in the future, we just don't know what it is. But there's gonna be a struggle on something, because if everyone has AI, everyone can do everything. There's gonna be a struggle somewhere about doing something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like making money or getting fulfillment. There's gonna be a struggle somewhere, and that struggle is human created, and that's gonna always exist. I feel like.
Ho Yin, you have a brilliant way of seeing the world, and I really thank you for offering your insight and perspective, and especially just laying it out in such a communicative framework. And I appreciate your time today, brother.
Dude, it was awesome. I had a great time.
Ho Yin, thank you so much. And where can people follow you if they want to learn more about your projects and hear you speak? I know you have a few podcasts out there on the World Wide Web.
Yeah, Hermessi is Hermessi.com, and then you can also follow me on LinkedIn.
That's amazing, man. I can't wait to see what you cook up next, man.
Sweet, man. Thanks
again. Appreciate you. Take care, y'all. Wow.
You.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
That was great.
That was awesome, bro. I appreciate you, man.
That was really fun.
I really mean it, man. You have a brilliant way of looking at things, brother.
Oh, thanks.
No, you really do.
It's really fun.
I appreciate that a lot.